Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome to your full flight tutorial for the Blackbox A320 Extreme. Now this is like my 5th run at this introduction because apparently lately I just have a hard time talking in my videos. But I'd like to start off with a very special thank you to Blackbox Simulations on a number of levels. First and foremost is them giving this aircraft to me. Blackbox was kind enough to provide this aircraft to me, and they asked for nothing in return. Okay, so I told Blackbox that I would like to highlight their product in some of my videos, and their response was essentially, here you go. They took a look at my videos, they said we like them, here you go. And I said, you know, do you guys want any promo videos, anything like that? They said, you know, do whatever you want. We don't really require anything of you. So I just think that's amazing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to Blackbox Simulations. Now with that, I would also like to thank them for the way they treat their customers. Now part of the reason I approached Blackbox, 2 reasons really. First of all, I needed an A320 for P3D version 4, and there's only 2 available right now, Blackbox and FS Labs. So I needed a A320 to do some flights, obviously, and I already had Blackbox a wide body Extreme, their A330 and 340. I had bought it when it was first released for FSX way back when. Okay, when Blackbox made the upgrade so that their wide body Extreme was available for P3D version 4, they didn't charge me any money for that, not a penny. They said, here you go. The Blackbox wide body Extreme is now ready for P3D version 4. Here's where you download it and install it. And they did that for all their customers, not just me, not just Captain Mac. That was for everybody, because that's how Blackbox Simulations treats their customers. Okay, they treat them with respect. They appreciate the fact that the money that they make off their products comes from their customers, and they treat them accordingly. They're nice to them. They're respectful to them. They care about them. You know, you just can't ask for more than that from a company, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And boy, I tell you, there's a lot of negative that can be said about a lot of different companies out there when it comes to the way they treat their customers. But I would say for Blackbox, absolutely, I have nothing negative to say. In fact, when the wide body Extreme was first released for P3D version 4, I had some issues with it. Now mind you, those issues were not because there was anything wrong with the product. They were because I'm an idiot and didn't do things properly. Oh, imagine that, Captain Mac just jumping in and doing something and not getting it right. So I messaged them on Facebook, of all places, on Facebook Messenger. I sent them a message. They responded to me, and they helped me solve the problem through Facebook Messenger. Okay, and then I ran into a couple issues when I first loaded this aircraft in, and guess what? Jump on Facebook Messenger, and they're all about helping me out. They're a fantastic company. They're not paying me to say that, nothing like that. And for anybody who's saying, wow, you got an airplane for free. Yeah, I did, and they didn't ask anything of me in return. So you can just take that and pack it right back where it came from, because the fact of the matter is this company actually cares about their customers, and I really appreciate that. And you're going to hear a lot more about that in my next flight review. Now the last thing I want to talk about before we actually introduce our flight itself today is I want to talk about a partnership between Blackbox Simulations and Mac Air. Our COO, Eric Cowflaps the Man Grindstaff, has been talking with Blackbox for a little while now. They've been chatting back and forth, and basically they came to, I don't know if you want to call it an agreement. I mean, we're not making any money off them. They're not making any money off of us. But essentially, Blackbox Simulations is a partner. I don't know what the word is. They're, again, we don't make any money off them. They don't make any money off us. Nothing like that. But we've partnered with Blackbox Simulations. So Blackbox Simulations and Mac Air have sort of teamed up with each other, and I just think that's fantastic. And I got to be honest with you, just couldn't ask for a better company to be partnered or you know, teamed up with Mac Air than Blackbox Simulations. Now I know some of you are probably saying, "Oh, I don't even like their products" or something. You know what? That's your issue to deal with. Okay, let's keep in mind that both of their wide body Extreme and their Airbus Extreme, which is the A320 series here, they're not even completed yet. Okay, now some people have a lot of heartburn about that. They don't like it. They say, well, it's just absolutely ridiculous that they release a product that's not completed. Well, first of all, they release it at a far lower price point than most companies do out there. And second of all, they're continuing to work on it. They didn't just release it and say, oh, yeah, well, you know what, we're just not going to do anything else. They continue to work on it and make improvements and upgrades to it, and it's becoming a better product. And eventually it will be completed, and it'll be an amazing product. But I really appreciate the way they're doing business, and I appreciate the way that they treat me and all of their other customers, and that's why I'm really excited about Blackbox and Mac Air teaming up together. So enough about that. Just a final thank you to Blackbox. I really appreciate it, and you know, guys, feel free to put what you want down in the comments. Just don't be a jerk. You know, I don't like when people are jerks in the comments. If you're gonna be a jerk, I'll delete it. But other than that, you know, if you got a comment on it or your thoughts on it, I'd love to hear it. But let's jump into our flight here today, and let's talk about what we got going on. Obviously, it's a full flight tutorial. As with all full flight tutorials, this is not designed to encompass every single aspect of the aircraft. This is about taking the aircraft from a cold and dark state as it sits right now, starting the engines, you know, taxi, takeoff, cruise, landing, the whole shebang, all the way back to cold and dark. That's what it's about. How do you operate the aircraft? It doesn't include things like emergency procedures or all the depth of systems or anything like that. It's just not the way we do a full flight tutorial. This is about how to fly the airplane, because that's ultimately what you're looking to do. As far as depth of systems and things like that, that's something that would be a different type of tutorial, and that's just not something I usually get into. So if you guys are ever interested in some tutorials like that, let me know. Maybe I'll be willing to spend, you know, a few months reading manuals and really get into an aircraft. But for now, we're going to stick with these full flight tutorials, because I like to teach you guys how to fly the aircraft, how to get it where you're trying to go from a cold and dark state all the way back to a cold and dark state. Final closing note before we jump onto the flight deck here. I really like the Blackbox default paint scheme. It looks really cool, and with that, the recent partnership between Blackbox and Mac Air, it's my understanding that one of the painters over there at Blackbox has offered to do a custom paint scheme that will be a Mac Air paint scheme from Blackbox. So I think that'll be really cool, and I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, enough talky talk. Is a really long introduction, but I think it's really important to get that information out there. So what do you say we hop on the flight deck here and figure out how we get this bird going? Alright, I lied. We're not going to hop on the flight deck yet, because we still need to take care of everything with our pre-flight manager. Alright, and here we go right here. Pre-flight manager. It's really pretty straightforward as far as Blackbox is concerned, and I actually really like what they've done with this thing. They've changed it a little bit over the last you know, couple of years or a few years or whatever. I think it's gotten a lot better. So obviously, before we start a flight, we need to go into our pre-flight manager, get things going there. So that's what we're going to do. Now, we are flying the A320-232, which is this one here. So what you want to do is go ahead and highlight that. Gives you all the information on the ID and all this good stuff over here. You know, I don't really care about that, but some people do. So, but highlight it first, and then go over to your payload. All right, and that makes sure that we have the Airbus A320-232 in here. If I wanted to use a different aircraft, let's say I did the 322-14. Highlight that one, go to payload, you say 322-14, right? So highlight the aircraft that you're going to be flying, then go over to payload, and now we're ready to rock and roll. We can change our cabin layout, we can change our flight crew, our cabin crew, all of that good stuff. And if I pull up my flight plan off to the side over here, let's see, we're supposed to have 136 packs on this flight. So if I pop this guy down here, I can do 2 class and have 150 seats in there, right? So I need that if I want to get 136 packs in there. We got 2 flight crew. Let's put some cabin crew in there. 3 will be good. And then pantry, domestic return, that's fine. We'll leave that like that. Okay. Now, let's go over to our packs tab here. We've got 136 packs on our flight plan, so let's just scroll this over till we reach 136. Oh, look at that. That was nice and easy. And it puts them in there so that the weight and balance stays as you need it to. Okay, and you can change how you set your passengers. You can change them as weight or percentage or however you want to do it. You can change all that stuff right here. Like if we change to weight right now, okay, we're still at 136 packs. That tells us what our actual weight is for passengers, or we can put it at a percentage. We're at 90% capacity for this configuration and so on. We'll leave it quantity because that's how we had it figured anyway. As far as cargo goes, our flight plan shows us 16,000 pounds of cargo, but I don't think we can get 16,000 pounds in this one. I think if we max it out, it's 14,947. So we'll just go with that. That's fine. It's a little less. I'm not sure why the why my flight plan did that, but I can tell you that it's probably because I probably used a aircraft profile for something different, knowing me. So, and then you've got your fuel. Now, we can either take the fuel off our flight plan, which I know is probably going to be wrong anyway, or we can go over to our dispatch page, and this is really the best way to do it. Go to your dispatch page, this is before doing your fuel, and set up your flight in here. So today we're flying from Phoenix down to John Wayne Airport. And our alternate, our first alternate is KSLI. Put that in there. Cruise altitude for us is flight level 360. You can see this thing's really easy. We'll leave the cruise Mach at 0.78. That's fine. We could put wind speed and heading in there, but I'm not going to really worry about it. We're going to have plenty of fuel. What about additional requirements? I want 10 minutes of APU time. I want, let's do 10 minutes of taxi time in case I talk a lot. I want a 30-minute hold time, and I want my trip reserves to be at 2%. Okay, now it shows all kilograms right now, but it's actually going to switch to pounds once I calculate it. So that's all we do is calculate fuel requirements. Look at that, 15,644 pounds of block fuel is what we're going to need. Okay, so remember that number real quick. Not that number, this number, 15,644. Go back over to payload. We're on the fuel tab, and just type it in here, 15,644. Hit enter, bam, it loads the fuel for you just like that. Okay, it also gives us other information. Required trim is negative 1.8 down, okay, which is interesting actually, to be honest with you. We've got our dry operating weight, our payload, our zero fuel weight, our takeoff fuel, our takeoff weight right here, our trip fuel, and our expected landing weight. Okay, and all of that is in your graphs over here as well. If you don't understand these graphs, don't worry about it. They're always confusing, even for people who really do understand them. And I know what they are because I've used them for flying in a Cessna 172. It's your center of gravity, weight and balance information. They're always confusing looking, but everything is within the parameters that it's supposed to be in. So for your max zero fuel weight, okay, it has to be within the orange there, and it is. For your max landing weight, it has to be below this purple line, and it is. And then for your max takeoff weight, it has to be within this green box. And you might be wondering, why is it got this whole box? Because it has to do with center of gravity, where it is front and rear of the aircraft, as well as the total weight, right? So we've got our aircraft weight over here, and then we've got our center of gravity up here. And so our center of gravity is going to be just shy of 37, it looks like right there. Yeah, 36.7 as our max takeoff weight center of gravity, right? And so that's why this dot is way over here, vice way over here, which would be like 20, right? Hope that makes sense to everybody. Now, once we've done that, let's go ahead and connect it. Now it's connected to the sim, but we also want to make sure that everything that we just did in this pre-flight manager gets sent to our aircraft. So let's send it over there. And you see the aircraft jump up a little bit right there because it just changed all the weight and balance and everything of the aircraft. And that's it for our payload manager. Now, I'm going to shrink this down because we can always come back and we might need some of this information. This aircraft will do it for us, but if you want to put it in yourself, you get your zero fuel weight, takeoff weight, all of that stuff is in here. And keep in mind also that you can manually put in, well, you can't manually do fuel in this one. The MCDU doesn't do that. So you need to use this to put your fuel in, but your weights and stuff like that you can put in manually using this if you want. So there we go. Shrink that down. Flight plan is going to need to stay up for now. Now, let's go ahead and hop on the flight deck. Standard Airbus layout as far as the flight deck is concerned. Doesn't matter if you fly a 318, 19, 20, 21, 330. They all very, very similar or exactly the same. And that's the idea of the whole series for Airbus and the way that they're set up. So everybody should be familiar with this flight deck by now. And so we don't really need to go into any familiarization or anything like that. That means we can hop straight up to the overhead and straight into, and I should have already popped it up, I'm sure I did, but the preliminary cockpit preparation. So the first thing we want to do is take care of our external power, which you can see is available. We don't need to set it up in the MCDU or anything like that. It's just available. So we can click it on. Let's go ahead and turn both batteries on. All right, and then let's hop outside the aircraft for just a second because I want you to see that the external power cart is now on. right? So the cart shows up once you turn the external power on the aircraft. So that's fantastic, easy days. And then it tells us to start the APU, but we're not going to do that right now. I don't want to burn up the APU. I only accounted for 10 minutes of APU time, and we'll probably exceed that as it is. So we'll leave the APU off for now, and we'll continue down the list here. So let's see, documentation is on board. A parking brake should be set, but let's just double check that real quick. It is. Parking brake is set. Fantastic. Let's see, flaps, check their position. So the flaps should be all the way up, which they are. Fantastic. Speed brake should also be all the way up. That's this guy right here, which it is. Fantastic. ECAM recall. So we hop down here, ECAM recall. It says, there it is right here. It says to hold it for 3 seconds. I don't think you need to do that. Basically, you just hit the recall button, right? And we shouldn't have any warnings popping up or anything like that. So we're good on recall. Then check the hydraulics for abnormal indications. So same thing. So from down here, it's kind of the way I set up the view makes it a little bit hard to see. Let's scoot down just a wee bit here, and that way we can go through these really quick. A little more. All right, there we go. All right, so where are we at? Hydraulics. So let's check our hydraulics. Click on the hydraulics button. There we go, and it says to check for abnormal indications. Now keep in mind we don't have the APU running, so we got no hydraulics on the aircraft right now. Same thing for engines, check for abnormal indications. I don't know what will constitute abnormal without the APU running. And then APU bleed. So if you go to the APU, there's the bleed air, right? And so APU isn't on, the APU is not on. You can see right here, so we're not getting any bleed air from the APU or anything like that, right? So this would also indicate pressure for APU bleed. And what else? Zone temp selectors as required. I'm not worried about those right now. And that takes us into our cockpit preparation checklist. So for the PFD and nav display, we've got them on. Plain and simple, right? Test the ground proximity warning system. I don't know if the test works in this aircraft or not. And right off, like right away, I already forgot where it's at, didn't I? I think it's on the overhead though. Ground proximity warning system should be over here somewhere, isn't it? Oh, complete brain fart right here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm a bit of an idiot, as is often the case. It was staring me in the face for the most part. Ground proximity stuff is over here, but there you can turn these off, but there's no test function or anything like that, so nothing we can do about it right now. Not that big of a deal. Nav display, check for abnormal indications. There's not going to be anything really normal or abnormal on there right now. Barrel reference does need to be set, which is 3003. Scroll this guy right here. I'm sorry, it's 3000 right now. And you have to do both sides. You can't just do one side. There we go. Flight director, make sure they're on. They are both on. Nothing. We don't need to do the ILS mode right now. Nav display mode and range is fine for the moment. Did I miss the? I could swear we should have already done the. Oh, now my brain doesn't want to work. IRS alignment, but it's not showing up on here yet. So I'm just looking through here real quick and make sure I didn't miss it. Still in cockpit preparation. Yeah, none of that's showing up on this checklist for some reason. This is not a checklist from Black Box, just so that everybody's aware. So what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and do the IRS alignment, because that's got to be taken care of. That's these three knobs up here, and you go in order 1, and then 2 is over here, and then 3. So just you're going to left click on this side of the knob one time, and one time. And now that's going to start the alignment process. There's nothing else we need to do with that right now. We just leave it as is and we move on. So where are we at here? Nav display mode and range is fine. Flight control unit, that is down here. Let's get a view that we can actually see it. That's all of this right here. So speed and Mach should be a dashed line. Push it and it turns dashed. Okay. Heading, vertical speed, track, FBA. It's basically preference. What's your preference on that? We're not changing any of that stuff. Altitude needs to be set by, now this is pilot not flying would set it, but if you hold the mouse just over the top here, see how it says 100, 1000? Roll your mouse wheel up one and that switches it to 1000 so that you can scroll it up in 1000-foot increments, right? If I remember correctly, we don't have altitude restrictions, I will double check. But if we do, I'll change that. But otherwise, we'll just be going up to flight level 360. And that's all it says. Set the initial expected clearance altitude. So I'll double check the departure. And of course, you guys will get that during the briefing as well. Standby ASI is good to go. There's nothing to do with that. We'll leave it alone. Standby horizon, standby altimeter. All of these are all standby instruments. We're not messing with any of those. Clock check and adjust. Can you see the clock in here? I don't think you can. Where's the clock at? I never mess with the clock, so I never even look for the clock. Don't mind me. Anti-skid nose wheel steering needs to be on. That's this switch over here, and it should be up. Down is off, and you get that warning right there. It says it's off. Turn it back on, and you're good to go. And also, this tells us our IRS alignment is greater than 7 minutes, right? Or is it less than? I always get those two little things confused. Which way that stupid arrow is supposed to point. Radio control panel, comms, we're not messing with those. Thrust levers should be in the idle position, which they are. Engine master switch should be off. That's this one right here. Off position is straight up and down. One thing I would like to say, and I know the folks from Black Box will see this, so you know this is a mild criticism. It's very hard to actually see the center of that knob with the modeling in there. It'd be awesome if either even just a little line or something that just lets us know where the center of the knob is. They just look like almost all the same color to me, right? You can barely see the shadowing on it. So it makes it a little difficult on some of these things to see where the actual position is at, whereas there's like a line on that one that lets you know, right? So anyway, moving on. Just want to throw that out there real quick. Engine master switch is in the off position. Engine mode selector is normal. Let's see. Did I get that right on the engine master switch? This is the engine mode selector, right? Let's zoom down here real quick. Get out of there. Yeah, this is the engine mode selector in normal. Which one's the engine master switch? I don't think I've ever actually paid any attention to the engine master switch. Is it up top here somewhere, perhaps? Hydraulic, fuel, electronics, air conditioning. You know what? I have to confess, I have no idea what that's talking about with the engine master switch. It just says that it's supposed to be off. And it says the pilot not flying is supposed to take care of that. So, yeah. If you guys know what that's talking about, let me know, because for whatever reason, I'm completely lost on that one right there. Okay, moving on. Transponder needs to be on standby, and I don't think it is, actually. But let's go ahead and set the code real quick while we're here. Here's our transponder. Yeah, it's in TARA, so let's put it over on standby, and then you can't just type in your code, right? You have to clear it out, and then type the code. There we go. And then it's on auto right now. That'll be fine. We'll leave that as is. We'll leave that on standby, and I think we're good to go there. Moving right along. Parking brake is set. External lights. Strobe light can go to auto. And that's one click up right there to auto. Beacon light off. And wing nav, runway turn-off lights, and landing nose light as required. We don't need any of these guys right now because we're not doing anything. We're just sitting here. Seatbelt sign can go to auto. No smoking sign. We'll just turn those all the way on, because later when we do our takeoff config check, I'll forget about those, and then it won't work right. Emergency exit lights need to be armed. They already are. I think they are. Yep. No, they aren't. Emergency exit lights armed. There we go. Cabin pressure, landing elevation, auto, PNF. PNF means pilot not flying, my bad. It's already set in the auto position. We're not going to mess with it. If you push the buttons, it's going to change things around. We're not doing that. Fuel pumps all on. So here's your fuel up here, and these fuel pumps are all on. If you click them, you see it shows off, right? So one way to think about this is if you come in here and you have a bunch of white lights turned on, right? Let's see. That's on. So it's a dark cockpit concept, I think is what it's called. So you would come in here, and any lights that are on that shouldn't be, you click those to turn them. That turns the lights off, and there turns the pumps on. Does that make sense, or did I just make that really confusing? I probably made it more confusing. Takeoff information. So there's a takeoff data form you can fill out. We're not doing that. I'm not worried about that right now. Let's see. That takes us to our FMGS preparation. This is what everybody really wants to know about anyway, right? We got everything powered on. How do we get the flight in there? So, step one, we are flying from Phoenix to, and you got to put the slash in there because we're using this format, to John Wayne, which is KSNA. Put that in there. Bam. There we go. And now you see this little Align IRS pop up. You click on that and it upgrades your nav accuracy. I don't really know what that means, but every Airbus I've ever flown does that. So on the sim, I know somebody was like, well, you've never flown an Airbus. On the sim, people. It'll be flight number 2336 as always. Cost index, you guessed it, 85. And our cruise altitude is going to be flight level 360. We can put the temp in or we can let it come up with the temp on its own, which it did. This little arrow means there's another page. You go to the next page. Zero fuel weight is already done. We can either take it off of our pre-flight planner or we can just right click and it'll put it in there for us. I'm just going to right click, but you can also type it into the scratch pad and put it in there. And you can do the same thing for the block fuel. If you right click it, it puts it in there and it takes care of the rest of the information for you. And that is going to take us to our flight plan. Click on the flight plan there. And the first thing we want to do is, so we've got a discontinuity between Phoenix and then this speed limitation, top of climb, top of descent, all of that, because we have no flight plan in there. Click on Phoenix, click on departure, and we are flying the EZO 6 departure, transitioning off at Blythe. Okay, and based on the weather, we're going to be able to use runway 7 right, which is the closest to us. So that should be this one, runway 7 right. And then it's going to be the EZO 6 departure. Not this one. This will erase it. I see how it's just, the alignment looks a little off. If you pop it up here, the alignment's a lot better. I just like working with it here, and I'm kind of used to where it's at. So EZO 6 transitioning on, not this one, Blythe. That's where we want to transition. Now let's insert that. Bam. Now, I don't know why it's saying unable cruise flight level, because I did this flight already and we were able to get to cruise. You know what? I wasn't as heavy though, so we might not be able to get all the way up to cruise. We will see. If we have to adjust it, we'll adjust it. But that takes us out to Blythe, right? Which is a VOR that's on an airport in California. And then there's nothing else in there. Well, from Blythe, we're taking J65 to Decus. I don't know why that little spinny thing keeps popping up. Yeah, I know, unable cruise flight level. You know what, let's just jump back over to performance. Nope, not performance. Initialization real quick. And let's change our cruise flight level to 320 for now. See if that, there we go. And hopefully we'll stop getting that warning. Alright, back over to flight plan. So, if I want to go from Blythe to Decus on J65, if I click on BLH, you see it's from BLH, and then you've got this via go to, right? So I'm going to type in J65 along with a slash, J65 along with our slash, because that's the format, and then we're going to Decus, D-E-C-A-S. Come on. And if you don't understand how that works, because some of you might be thinking, well, how come it's not going to a VOR? Well, I recently released a advanced VOR navigation tutorial which talks a lot about airways in there. And if you take a look at that tutorial, you'll understand where Decus comes from and why we're able to do that. Now, once we've typed that into the scratch pad, click on this guy here. And now do we want to insert it or do we want to erase it? We're going to insert it, of course. And then if we scroll down here, we'll see now we've got, there's BLH, there's Decus, right? But J65 right above it. So any waypoints in between, those are going to be covered as well. And then from Decus, we're taking J212. So click on Decus. There it is, Decus, J212. And then the slash again, and we're taking that to PSP. So let's put that in there, PSP. And I think we're going to alter that later, but we'll look at that when we get to it. Same thing, click over there to insert it, and then click on insert, and now it's in there. And if we scroll down here, we can say J212 to PSP. And then we have a flight plan discontinuity between there and KSNA. Now, if the weather holds out, which I believe it will, we can continue with the same arrival and approach that I took earlier. So if I click down here on KSNA and click on arrival, it's going to ask me for runway first. Now, I think you can maybe type in a star and put it in there, or you can just go to this page and you can select your star. So we're going to be taking the KO7. But I've noticed, and I've noticed this in every Airbus I've flown on the sim, that if you do that and then come back later and try and put in the runway, it tends to cause issues. I don't really know why. So we're going to take KO7. We are going to transition at PSP. And I'm going to put my runway in now. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to be taking the ILS runway 20 right approach. So we're going to click on that guy. Okay. And then see it's saying stars available, right? So you see the issue here? It's giving me, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't work now. You got to put this in there. You got to put that in there. Let's just erase it. Click on KSNA again. And let's start with the runway. And if I just put ILS 20 right, and now I select KO7, transition at PSP, and insert that, and there we go. Now we scroll down here. Now there's still going to be a flight plan discontinuity because we were already going to PSP, right? And PSP is also part of the KO7 arrival. Now if I just clear out the discontinuity by clicking on clear, and then there, it still shows them both in there, and that's not going to work for us. So let's click on this one and get rid of PSP there, and we'll keep PSP for our arrival there. Alright, everything looks fantastic right now. However, I promise you that there's going to be an issue with this. First of all, for whatever reason, it did not put in all the waypoints for the arrival. It's got this FI 20 right, and that equates to, let me just jump over here and pull up the chart real quick so I don't get it wrong. That's going to equate to, I believe, the Lemon waypoint. Okay. However, that's not going to work for us, and I'll show you why here. So let's go ahead and let's pop this up, and let's take a look. Oh, that's because I'm moving the arrow. Apparently the arrow moves that as well. Let's switch this to plan mode. Click on flight plan again, and then let's zoom it down here, and you can see here's our initial departure here. Okay, and everything looks fantastic. I have no issues with that. And then you step through it by just stepping through with the arrow here and scroll down. So there's Usai, and then Massive, I don't know what that's supposed to be, and then out to Keynes, and then from there it's to Ezo, and then Solemn, and so on and so forth. There's Blythe. Top of descent is right after Decus. That shows up on there as well. And then PSP, we had 2 instances of it, so we got rid of one of them. And then Alex and Bands, Frets, HDF comes next. I'm sorry, HDF, then Frets, then Caillou, then Joggett, SLI, and this is where the problem begins. So you see what happens here, right? This isn't really compatible with what we've got going on here. So what we need to do is a couple of things. First of all, I want to get rid of SLI. I don't need it. It's past the airport, so I'm going to clear that out. I don't really need Joggett either because that's kind of in the way, and so I'm going to clear that out as well. And it's not actually a waypoint on the approach. However, it is a waypoint that is where the approach is at, if that makes sense. So I'm going to get rid of that one. Okay. Now, there is a couple of waypoints I'm going to insert in here, and then I'm going to show you something else. And all of this should help you to understand how to use this FMC a lot better, right? So I need what's called Sager waypoint, S-A-G-E-R, and you're going to see that when you get to the approach briefing. So S-A-G-E-R, and I need that to come before FI 20 right, so I'm going to click on FI 20 right to insert it, and you see it puts it way out here, okay? Now I'm going to use the space below it. That's the first waypoint, or the initial approach fix. So I want to insert the other waypoints beyond it is what I want to do. Okay, so after Sager is Snake. I like that one. I'm going to put Snake in there. Okay, and then it's going to ask us for which one of these is it. Okay, in this case it's pretty simple. If you're unsure, look up the lat long for it, but in this case it's not 5,000 miles away, so we know it's going to be this one here. And sure enough, there it is right there, Snake. And then after Snake comes Hookem. It's probably Hookem, H-U-K-E-M. H-U-K-E-M. A little bit of trivia. Anybody know why they put the keyboard in order like this? I know the answer. You guys tell me down in the comments. After that comes Lemon, L-E-M-O-N. Plain old lemon. There we go. There's Lemon, and then again it's asking us which one. Well, we know it's going to be 290 nautical miles away, not thousands of miles away, right? So we're going to choose that one there, and there it is. Lemon is in there. And then we can get rid of the flight plan discontinuity because Lemon is the point where we want to intercept the ILS. Okay? Now, there's still some issues here. First of all, at Sager, we need to be at 3,500 feet. So I'm going to put /3,500. And you're going to see that little asterisk there. That means I've put a hard altitude in there. Okay, At Snake, we need to be at 3,400. Whoops, got to put the slash in first. Slash 3,400. We're going to put that one in there. Same thing. Whoops, wrong one. My bad. Slash 3,400. That was the decel point I put that on. We need to put it here on Snake. There we go. And then after Snake is Hook'em at 2,800. So slash 2,800. Because if we get too low, we're going to have problems. There's mountains over there. So there's Hook'em 2,800. And then 2,200 at Lemon. So slash 2,200. And there we go. Now we still have a problem here. Okay, if we go from this waypoint to Sager and try to descend to 3,500, there's a mountain range right here. And we are going to fly into those mountains. We don't want to do that, obviously. So the easiest way to deal with this is to come all the way out here to HDF and just get rid of the rest of this stuff. We can just call this the end of our arrival, and we can scoot over there. Or we can just put in a custom waypoint. I'm just going to get rid of this because if I do that, if I clear these out, frets and KO, that takes me straight to Sager. You can see what happens here is it makes a turn and goes up this way, and that should clear the mountains for us. Okay, now if there was any concern about that, you could either enter another waypoint or you can make a custom waypoint. Now, I'm not overly familiar with custom waypoints on the Airbus style MCDU, right? So if I click on Sager, I think you can make a waypoint off of this, but to be honest with you, I don't know for sure, and I haven't taken the time to look it up, so, and I'm not going to either because I just don't want to right now. But the fact of the matter, if you know how to make a custom waypoint, in fact, in the Airbus FMC, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll make it a point to highlight that at some point because I've never really messed with it that much. Okay, so all of that being said, though, basically we've got ourselves set up for our entire flight here all the way into the approach. Now, in addition to this, there's another VOR in there called PDZ, which comes right before Sager. You could put that in there if you want, but I think we're probably good to go like this, and that's how I'm going to leave it. Excuse me. So let's get that off plan mode, and I know somebody's probably screaming at the thing right now going, oh, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that. You know what? Just pipe down. I don't know how to do everything, and I never pretended that I do. The fact of the matter is, I fly a lot of different airplanes, right? Anyway, moving on. Okay. Let's see. We've got all our nav aids in there. Performance page comes next. So let's click on the performance page. This is our V speeds here, right? So our flaps is going to be flaps 1. Now this is kind of weird the way this is set up. If you recall, let me pull it back up over here. Maybe. Come here. There we go. On this guy, required trim equals 1.8 down, or DN, right? So we're going to use flaps 1. So you're going to click on 1 and then put a slash and then put 1.8 DN. That's what's going to go in here, okay? And you can put in DN 1.8. It reversed it for me, thankfully, because I always mess that up anyway. But that's your flap setting. If you don't put it in that format, it will not accept it. Plain and simple. It's just not going to accept it. So there you go. If you put a flex temp in here, if you want to put an outside air temperature that's greater than the current air temperature, then it'll flex the temp. I'm not going to mess with it right now. We're just going to do a full toga and we'll be good to go, because we've all seen what happens when I try to mess with flex temp, right? Right click on V1, V rotate, and V2, and that gives you your V speeds based on that flap setting. And it also gives you your flap retraction speed, your slat retraction speed, and your clean speed, right? So we're going to go on all those, shrink that back down, and flight plan's good to go. Fuel quantity, we can check our fuel quantity. Fuel on board 15,640 pounds. How does that compare to our pre-flight planner? Well, look at that. We wanted 15,644. I think we're going to be all right being 4 pounds shy. And the reason is quite simple. Fuel weighs approximately 6 pounds per gallon, for anybody who doesn't know that. So we're not even a gallon shy on our fuel. So I think we're going to go on that. So let me shrink that guy back down. Pre-flight blah, blah, I can't talk at all. Pre-flight briefing. We'll take care. We've kind of taken care of that. We'll talk a little more about departures and all that once we taxi out. And then we need to complete the cockpit crew checklist, which is pre-flight. Wow. Apparently I can't say that word. Pre-flight briefing has been performed, sort of. Cabin signs are on or on auto. Fuel quantity has been checked. Takeoff data is inserted, and the altimeter is checked and set. That's fantastic. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take us to our before start and pushback checklist, which we'll hop into here in just a second. Alright, we're not going to need to push back, but we still want to take care of our before start and pushback checklist. So, ATC clearance has been obtained. Windows and doors are closed and locked. We can double check the doors down here. Just click on the doors page, and it shows they're all in green, and if a door or a slide was deployed, we would know it. Put that back on the engine page. While I'm going through the rest of this, let's start the APU, because I haven't done that yet, and we have to have the APU running in order to start the engines, right? So to start the APU is very simple. Master switch goes on, and then click on the start button, and the APU starts up. And if you hop down here, you'll see, click on APU, and you can see the APU starting to spin up right now. Okay, so while the APU is still spinning up, let's finish our push and start checklist here. We've got the windows and doors taken care of. We've got our startup clearance. Thrust levers need to be in the idle position right there. Now, if they're not in idle and you start the engines, they will probably rev up really quick. So keep them in idle, because they will start if they're not in the idle position. Let's see. I don't know if that's true to the real aircraft or not, but it's true in this one. So parking brake is set. Beacon needs to come on. That is this one here. Beacon on. Fantastic. And what else? Transponder. It just says transponder. That's all it says. I think the transponder is fine for now. We'll turn the TCAS on before we take off. APU bleed needs to be on. Of course, the APU's got to be running for the bleed to be useful. And hey, look at that. APU is available. So hop up top here. APU gen is already on. If I click this, see, that turns it off. So let's turn it back on. And now we can get rid of external power. We don't need it anymore. We get a fault over there, that's fine, and then turn the APU bleed on and both those faults go away. Fantastic. And then we take care of our before start checklist. Windows and doors are closed and locked. Beacon is on. Thrust levers are idle, and parking brake is set. Now, as far as the startup procedure, it's really as simple as it gets. So you come down here, and your mode selector, you click one time to the right, and the engine master is this one here. So again, Captain Mac can be retarded sometimes, and I was asking, where's the engine master switch? Does anybody know? Well, it's the fuel. I always think of these as the fuel switches, right? But those are the engine master. So we want to make sure those are in the off position for the moment until we're ready to start. And we're going to start with engine number 2. You always start with engine number 2 in an Airbus. It has something to do, I believe, with the hydraulics. If somebody knows better, please feel free to put it down in the comments and let me know. So we are going to be looking for some engine parameters. Now, first of all, it's very simple to start it. We put this the mode to ignition start, and then we left click the master switch, and it's going to start that engine. However, that's not the button I wanted. I wanted that one here. There are some engine parameters that we're going to be looking for. Okay, so let's put that on engine and pop it up here for you. I love how you get all of these functions down here when you pop it up too. I think that's fantastic. I'm just trying to move it now though. Let's move it over there, and let's pop this one up and move it right there, and let's make them the same size, because I'm a little what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word is, but anyway, I just want to make them similar in size so that you can see everything, right? Okay, good enough. Alright, so we're going to be looking for some certain engine parameters while we're starting the engines up. The start valve open should appear, okay. Bleed pressure should indicate green. Oil pressure should rise. N2 should increase to 16%, and then igniter A or B should kick in. N2 increase to 22%. Fuel flow increase. Engine or exhaust gas temperature rise. N1 increase, blah, 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 and on it goes. In other words, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on here. Some of it I honestly don't understand. Maybe some of you guys do, some of you guys don't as well. But let's just take a look here. So left click, there's the master switch. You can see the fuel flow increasing. All right, exhaust gas temperature should start to increase pretty soon. The N2 is already coming up. We're looking for 16% first. Bam. It says ignition. Oil's not doing anything right now. Fuel used isn't really doing anything right now. There's the oil, the pressure starting to move on that. There's the exhaust gas temperature coming up. All these things are happening pretty fast. I just wanted to show them to you real quick. And then what was, I didn't see start valve open. I wonder where that pops up at. It probably popped up and I just didn't notice it. All right. And then we just wait for the engine to stabilize. That's really all we do, right? So engine idle parameters. N1 should be at about 19.5%. This is our N1 here. For us, it's looks like it's 20.5. Exhaust gas temperature should be about 390 degrees. It's actually a little lower than that. Keep in mind this checklist probably was made for another Airbus, so there's going to be a little bit of difference in the parameters. N2 should be at 58.5%. We're at 63. Fuel flow 275. It says kilograms per hour. We're in pounds an hour right now, 2460. And then oil should be steady and green, whatever that actually means. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And engine 1 or engine 2 is up and running. So engine 1, left click it, and it's all the same stuff that's going to pop up. I don't see the start valve open popping up anywhere. So maybe that just doesn't pop up or something. Alright, so we're just waiting for that one to finish stabilizing. And what comes next? Wheel page. I don't know what the wheel page is. Let's let that one finish stabilizing, and then we'll move on from there. Phew, you got a Capmax sneeze in there. Alright, let's hop down here real quick. Is there? Yep, there is a wheel page. So it should automatically switch to the wheel page, supposedly. I don't know if it will or not. Again, this checklist comes from a different Airbus. In other words, it's an Airbus A320, but it comes from a different company. Does that make sense? Airbus comes from the same company. The software version comes from a different company. How's that sound? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the wheel page real quick. I'm not sure what we're looking at the wheel page for, probably just to make sure that everything's good in there. I think we're probably good on that. I'm going to put it on the flight controls page because we're going to need that here in a couple of minutes. And let's go ahead and let's roll right into our after start checklist. So, hopping up top here, the APU bleed needs to come off. That's this switch right here. And ground spoilers, it's kind of weird. It goes from APU bleed right to ground spoilers, but it does, so we'll do that. Ground spoilers need to be armed. That's this one here now. You could probably, if you click it, it's going to half. We don't want that. And I can never get it to go back beyond half. I have Shift Tab puts it in the arm position, right? So Shift and Tab, it pops up, and now it's in the arm position. Let's see, rudder trim. If not showing 0, press reset. Rudder trim's already on 0. That's this one right here, so we're good. We could reset it, and well, the reset button doesn't do anything. So, flap lever, set flaps for takeoff. We said we're going to do flaps 1. There it is, flaps 1. And pitch trim. We need to set the pitch trim. Now this one's going to be fun because let's cruise down here. If you remember, now it's down 1.8 with flaps 1, right? So let's look at this here. Okay. So these are all up, and this is down. So we're flaps 1, and you can see we're getting the indicator there, which should be negative 1.8. There's 7. There's 8. Negative 1.8. So there's down 2, so it's just shy of the down 2. That's where it tells us to set our trim, so that's where we're going to set it. Okay. Check for remaining reminders on the eCam. I'm not seeing anything else on there other than auto brakes should be max. Okay, and that's RTO basically, and then we'll test the takeoff config when we get ready to actually take off, right? Now APU master switch can go off, so jump back up top and just click the master switch off, and that'll take care of business for you. You don't need to do anything else. Engine anti-ice as required. We don't need it. It's a little chilly, but there's no moisture in the air. Same with wing anti-ice. However, here's your wing and your engine anti-ice. If you need those, that's where you click them at. Let's see. Check all slide. We already checked doors, so ground crew clearance, we're good on that, and that takes us to the actual after start checklist. APU as required, it's off. Anti-ice as required, it is off. ECAM status has been checked. Flaps are set to 1. The spoilers are armed. Pitch and rudder trim are both, well, pitch trim is at negative 1.8, rudder trim is at 0, and we've got our hand signal from the ground crew. Alright, that's going to take us into our taxi checklist. First things first, our taxi clearance has already been obtained. External lights, it says as required. We need to go ahead and get those taxi lights on. So click them once. There we go. And the click spot's a little weird on that, but just kind of try and get it to the base. And if you need to, go to that overhead view. That helps a lot. And if you don't have something like Chase Plane or EasyDock, well, shame on you. Taxi area clear. It is. Clock We're not messing with the clock. Parking brake will come off. Thrust levers as required. Flight control check. All of that good stuff. So I'm going to do flight control check first, and then we're going to actually taxi out. And as far as taxiing is concerned with this aircraft, you don't really need much as far as thrust goes. So taking a look at our flight controls here, I'll pop this up so you can see it. We're going to go full left. There we go. Full right. Fantastic. Neutral. And then all the way up. All the way down. And neutral. And then full left on the rudder. Full right on the rudder. And neutral. Fantastic. All of that is as I would expect it to be. Let's put that to the engine page for now. Shrink that down. And let's make sure we click on this knob right here, which is going to make our steering tiller active. We're using our rudders as a tiller. So that's active. And what else? I do want to double check one last thing here because I know I'll mess it up if I don't. Let's go over to our Phoenix charts here and double check on our departure and make sure I don't have any altitude restrictions, because if I do and I don't look now, I won't put them in. Looks like there's some altitudes on there, but nothing that looks like a hard restriction of any sort. It's got 9,200 and then flight level 180 on there. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna hold us below flight level 180 all the way out to Blythe, so I don't think that's an altitude restriction, which means we're good to go. Track hour coming on, a little jump here, or big jump depending on how you look at it. And let's take that parking brake off. Just press the brake pedals and off she goes. Now, with the rudder active, or the steering tiller active, I'm using my rudder pedals. Now I do have a knob set up for it on my controls, however it's a little fickle for whatever reason. But as soon as I start to turn, you see that tiller pop up in the lower left corner, and it tells me what my how far I've got that nose wheel turned, basically. So which is, you know, kind of handy. I don't know if there's an option to make it not do that, but I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't really bother me because it only does it when you're steering on the ground anyway. Alright, enough talk about that. We're going to mosey on over here to the runway, and while we're doing that, why don't you take a listen to the taxi and departure briefing. Alright folks, so taxi is going to be just about as straightforward as it can get. We're parked right over here near Cutter Aviation. We're going to take, I don't think there's a designation for this particular cross over to Taxiway Hotel here, but we'll cross over to Hotel and come down here to Hotel 1 and hold short of runway 7 right. We will not be crossing runways, so this hotspot and this hotspot are not going to be a major concern to us, and there's really nothing for us to worry about there. Let's take a look at the departure briefing. And as you can see here, it's going to be the EZO 6 departure. Phoenix departures on 126.8. See the, for airport elevation, see the graphic. Where's it at? I don't know. Anyway, actually it should be written right here, right? Yeah, 1,135 feet. Okay, transition level, flight level 180, radars required, all of that good stuff. Pretty straightforward for us. We're going to be taking runway 7 right, which is the shorter of the two here. Climb to 1,640 feet out to FUTEP, then hang a right out to AZCRD, whatever that's supposed to be. Down to USI or USI, swinging all the way around here to Massive, maximum 220 knots at or above 7,000 feet. So I think I messed that up. I couldn't find any altitude restrictions, but there's one right there. You got to be at or above 7,000 feet. Out here to Keens, then hanging a left to 259 degrees to EZO, over to 262 degrees out to Solemn, and then out to Blythe, which is our transition out there. A little bit of information down here just gives us pretty much the same thing we just talked about. Climb heading 078 to 1,640 feet, then direct to FUTEP, then track 132 to AZCRD, then 199, and so on, up around the corner here, and off we go. Alright folks, we got our holding short here of the runway. The first thing I want to do in our before takeoff checklist, even though it's technically part of the taxi checklist, is hit the takeoff config button down here. And it's not working. Oh yeah, it is. It worked. Usually it doesn't work with the parking brake on. That's alright. We got the parking brake set. Before takeoff checklist, we've got our clearance to line up. Approach path clear of traffic. We'll check that as we pull out. Transponder goes to TARA. That's way down here. Roll it all the way over, and it's on TARA. Fantastic. Let's see. Engine mode select. Select ignition when runway has standing water and heavy rain. PAX APU bleed as required. All that's good. External lights need to be turned on. On and on. That one goes to takeoff mode, and then strobe lights come on, wing lights come on, nav and logo lights go to 2. And take care of the before takeoff checklist. Engine mode selector as required. So that's down here, right? Engine mode selector. Why am I drawing a blank on this right now? I've done this like 1,000 times. I should know where the engine mode selector is, right? What is the engine mode selector? That stays in ignition, I believe, during takeoff. And I think that's it, right? I know I'm missing something on this, guys. I know that I am. And I do apologize for that, because I know there's a button you're supposed to push somewhere for the engine mode selector. And I don't believe it's on the overhead. No. So, yep. Completely at a loss for that for whatever reason. So the engine mode selector is going to be at whatever it's at. Maybe it's not modeled in this one or something. Maybe that's why I'm drawing a blank on it. I don't know. But anyway, what else we got here? PAX on, those are good. Takeoff memo, all green. That's this guy right here is the takeoff memo, all green. And ready for takeoff says to announce it. And then as far as the takeoff checklist goes, the thrust levers will go to toga. First of all, you advance them from idle to 50%. Release the brakes, and then advance to takeoff power. Stick half forward until you get to 80 knots to prevent a nose-up effect. I'll have to try to remember to do that because I always forget that. And then everything else is scanning and all that, looking for our V-speeds, all that good stuff, and then gear up all that after takeoff, blah, blah, blah. I think we're going to go on all that, so let's get her out on the runway and get started here, shall we? Track higher coming on, little jump, big jump, depending on how you look at it. Brakes off. Everything is ready to go. We're ready to fly. I'm a little annoyed at the whole engine mode selector thing. Not sure why I cannot seem to remember where that's at. But it is what it is. Approach path is clear. We don't have any AI traffic going in here. Let's just bring a little bit of thrust in there. Get her out on the runway just a wee bit quicker. Pull them forward just a little bit, and then we'll turn her on here. There we go. Oh, easy days, right? My scenery is looking a little odd right now. Like the yellow looks kind of brown. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if it's a issue with the scenery or if it's supposed to look more realistic. I honestly don't know. I do drive around on these taxiways, and they're pretty yellow, actually. Alright, thrust back to 0 there. The aircraft should carry itself on there just fine. And we'll try to get her lined up nice and centered in one shot. This thing will make a nice tight turn, just so you guys are aware. See that? Really tight. A little more. And I'm liking that. So, let's bring her to a stop here, nice and easy. Here we go. Let's disconnect the tiller. Now, at a certain speed, it'll disconnect on its own, but I don't think we need to worry about it. So, throttles to 50%. That's right about there, I think. Release brakes. And toga mode. Try and keep her in the center of the runway. Not doing a very good job right now. Yeah, my textures all look a little, my colors look a little subdued. I mean, they should be a little bit like right in here where the primary touchdown zone is, but I don't know. Anyway, holding the nose forward until we get 80 knots. We're past it now, so we can kind of just let up on it. And we're watching for that V1 speed. There's no call out in here. Might be a way to set it up. I didn't really look into it. Coming up on V1 and rotate. There we go. Boy, we used up that runway, didn't we? And up, up, and away. Positive rate of climb gear coming up. And we shot right past where we wanted to go. Big time. Bring the nose back down. There we go, that's better. Pretty good. I am not the best Airbus pilot in the world. I think I struggle with using the stick instead of a yoke, to be honest with you. I don't know why it's showing takeoff inhibit right now. Is it supposed to do that after departure there? I don't know. Nose up a little bit more there. Following our flight director. It's telling us to lower the throttles to climb. That's climb mode there. Nose is going to need to come down so we don't lose too much speed. Not looking too shabby though. Ignition's still on. The takeoff inhibit went off. Let's turn the ignition off here. We can disarm or de-arm the spoilers there. Not quite ready to bring the... What the heck was that? What was that? Did you guys see that? What the heck just flew by us? Like, was that supposed to be like a simulated bird strike or something? What just happened? It was insane. It's like a UFO or some craziness. Like, that was weird. That was weird. I've never had something like that in the sim. I don't know what just happened, but that was really weird. Like, that was creepy. I don't know what just happened there, guys. You guys are gonna have to go back and like pause that and tell me what that was, because I can't pause right now and go back and look at it. So I don't know what just happened there, but that was really weird. Anyway, moving along here. We're gonna start our turn here shortly. Oh my goodness, what just, like, I looked up just in time to see whatever that was, didn't I? A little more. Fantastic. Looking pretty good here, guys, other than something crazy flying past the windscreen there. Let's get the flaps up now. There we go, looking pretty good. Just following that flight director right now, that's all we're doing. Wants to get us around 220 knots. And I think that's the speed it wants us to climb at until we're above 10,000 feet here. Looking pretty good, guys. I do like hand flying. I'm not as good with the Airbus, to be honest with you. But we'll get there. Yeah, see, it wants me to bring the nose down a little still, but we're at 220 knots. That's what it's set at right now, so I don't want to mess with that too much. Yeah, I think I'm much better at hand flying a Boeing than I am hand flying an Airbus, to be honest with you. But it's not horrible. It's not horrible. I've done worse. Yeah, see, that's the flight director's a little weird. I think it's supposed to be a continuous turn, so I'm sure our passengers are getting sick from leveling off and then turning and leveling off and turning. But anyway, we're looking pretty good. Coming up on 10,000 here pretty quick. I'm going to throw the autopilot on. There it is. Track IR coming off. A little jump here. And let's go ahead and let's take a look at this after takeoff checklist. APU bleed off. I don't know why it would have been on since the APU was off. Maybe you're supposed to take off with the APU. I don't know. It says APU master as required. I suppose that's assuming you did your takeoff with the APU on. Is what that is. I don't know. But anyway, let's take care of getting these landing lights off. Coming up on 10,000 feet here. Put those to retract. Put that to the off position. And actually, strobe lights stay on. I don't know why I'm trying to turn those off. What else here? Engine mode selector as required. Again, I'm struggling with engine mode selector here. Are we talking about... Because, I mean, it's in climb mode right now, right? Am I missing something here? Because it's actually annoying me a little bit. So for some reason, I have this idea in my head that there's supposed to be these engine mode buttons that you click on it and it sets some parameters for the engine. But for whatever reason, I'm not seeing them in here. Either I'm losing my mind, guys, or it's not modeled in here or something like that. I don't know. Probably my fault, but who knows. Either way, anti-ice protection as required. We don't need it. Seatbelts as required. We're just going to leave them on. Barrel reference. Once we get above 18,000, obviously we'll go to standard. And then take care of your after takeoff checklist. Engine mode selector. There it is again, as required. Spoilers disarmed. Did we do that already? I think we disarmed the spoilers, right? Yes, we did. Spoilers are disarmed. Flaps retracted. Landing gear is up. Exterior lights as required. Packs on. Altimeter to standard once we get above 18,000. That's going to take care of the after takeoff checklist, folks. And that leaves us with, you guessed it, time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alrighty, it's going to be the KO7 arrival for us into John Wayne today. We're entering out here at Palm Springs VOR, or PSP VOR. Little cough for you right out the gate there. Sorry about that. It snuck up on me. Anyway, PSP out here. Let's see, we got expect clearance to cross at 16,000 down here at Alex. Continuing on the same heading down here to Bands, and then we'll hang a left from there. Looks like we can get down, minimum safe altitude is 8,000 feet there, down to HDF, and then you bang it right from there. It's Frets, KO, Jogget, and then SLI. Now we're going to cut some of those out. We're going to go probably from HDF to the start of our approach, which is going to be over here, primarily because there's a string of mountains right along here, and this just doesn't make sense. And we would have to go out here and then swing back around, and it just doesn't work out right. So watch for a change there. I think I already mentioned that anyway early on in the flight, that we're going to be changing that a little bit. So we'll be entering onto our approach out here, and that's pretty much the gist of it. John Wayne Orange County Airport, ATIS is 126.0. Airport elevation, it says, see the graphic, it's 56 feet. You can see it right down there, it says 56, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Not much else on here, so off we go then. Alrighty guys, as you can see, we're going to be coming up on our top descent here in a little bit, and as always we have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. So let's take a look at our descent preparation checklist. First things first, landing information received. It's going to be runway 20 right. The weather says that the wind is 240 at 5 knots with an altimeter of 2993, and our next item on the list is to preset the altimeter. So if you left click the altimeter, you see that it shows 2992 right now, and then scroll it to 2993 and then right click it again. It goes back to standard for now. When I left click it, you see it shows 2993. So just preset it. Now I'm not sure what difference that makes, to be honest with you, but there you have it. So that one's at 300, right? So that one's all kinds of messed up. 2993. And there we go. We'll leave that one as standard for now. What else we got here? FMGS set for landing. We'll pop this guy up on this one. So we want to go to our performance. Next phase, which is descent. Next phase, which is landing. Set in our QNH. But before I do that, real quick, let me shrink that back down because we're going to be on our top of descent here pretty fast, as you can see. So let's change our MCP altitude real quick. You can see it's set in 100-foot increments. Let's switch that over to 1,000 real quick. And we are not going to go below 8,000 until I'm sure we're going to be clear of those mountains. So we'll set it right there at 8,000. Put it back over on the 100 marker. Alright, and now we'll pop this guy back up. Don't forget that we have to press or push that knob by left clicking it in order to initiate the descent. So our QNH is 2993. We need to put that in. If you just put in 2993, it's not going to work. You have to put the decimal or the point in there. Excuse me, 2993. We want the wind. This is, remember, this is for our approach. So it's 240 at 5 knots. 240/5. We're going to put that in here. And we're going to land with full flaps. So this is telling us that our approach speed is going to be at 127 knots with a landing speed of 122 knots. We can put in our minimum decision altitude and decision height as well. Let me pull those up on the chart over here real quick. So our minimum decision altitude is going to be 255 feet. Remember, this is above sea level. And our decision height is 200 feet. Pretty typical. There we go. Oh, it's one or the other, I guess. Okay, we'll go with decision height. That's the one I prefer anyway. So there we have it. So you can put one or the other in there based on what your approach chart says. And of course, you're going to get the approach briefing here shortly. You'll see where I got that information from. And that takes care of setting up the FMGS. Nav radios set for the ILS. So, and let me just scroll that down so I can see when we're on top of it. So if you go to nav radio on here, you can see we've already chosen the ILS approach. So it put the frequency in here of 111.75, which is the correct frequency. And the final approach course says 196 on the chart, 195 in here. 195 should be appropriate for the sim because, as always, it's going to be a little bit outdated. So we should be good on that. We can take a look at our descent information here. Our cost index of 85 just gives us our information. We can change the speed if we want down here. We're going to leave it as is, though. Not too worried about it. Then we'll bring it back to the approach page and leave it there. Now, as we come onto the top of descent here, what's going to happen is you're going to see the word decelerate appear right here, and that tells us that we're at top of descent and it's time to begin. That's when we want to press the button. So watch for decelerate to pop up on the primary flight display here, and once it does, we'll press the knob. We'll left click the knob, however you want to say it, to begin the descent here. So give that just a second. There it is, decelerate, left click, and down she goes. And then it should try to follow it. It always stays below this little bubble for whatever reason. I've noticed it always stays below. So throttle's rolling back, so hopefully we won't overspeed, but we need to watch it closely because we probably need to bring some spoilers in there. We're about to overspeed, in fact. Let's bring some spoilers in. Boy, that thing did a little nose over, didn't it? Bring the spoilers back out and let it kind of settle in. And I've noticed it kind of does this porpoising effect on the way down where kind of speed up, slow down, and the rate of descent changes constantly. So watch for that to be happening. I don't know if that's I don't know what's causing that. I don't know if it's something from my weather program or if it's something that Black Box is still working on or what, but I've seen that in other Airbuses as well, so it's not the end of the world. Anyway, moving on. So nav radios are set, minimum safe altitudes are set, approach and landing briefing, we're going to be taking care of those here shortly. Company messages, that's not really an issue for us. And then take care of your descent checklist. Approach and landing briefing about to be completed. Minimum safe altitude set and checked. Landing elevation is, oh, now I got to find it on here. Airport elevation, touchdown zone elevation is 55 feet. And the altimeters are set and ready to be switched over once we cross below 18,000 feet. I do want to note here real quick, so I did a little looking around during the cruise phase there. And the engine mode selector is this knob here in the middle. I think when I was thinking of those buttons, I'm thinking of the Embraer regional jets or the E-jets. Those have a mode selector for the engine. where you click a button, and I think that's what I was thinking of for whatever reason. So when it says to set the engine mode selector, it's this guy here. So it can either be normal, or it could be ignition, or it could be crank. Those are the three options down there. So I just wanted to clarify that really quick. You can see a little of that porpoising effect going on right now, but other than that, we're already on to our descent now. And so there's nothing left to do except roll right into the approach brief, and then I think I'll throw a little more of that cinematic in on the end just because I kind of like the way that looks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that means I changed my mind when I did the editing. So, alright, approach briefing if you please. Alright, it's the ILS runway 20 right approach for us today. The ATIS is going to be on 126.0 with SoCal approach on 121.3. John Wayne Tower for us is going to be 126.8. It's also the CTAF. Ground is going to be 120.8 as we're coming back to the east when we're taxiing. Localizer is ISNA at 111.75 with a final approach course of 196 degrees. Glide slope starts at Lemon at 2,200 feet. ILS decision altitude is 255 feet or decision height at 200 feet with airport elevation of 56 feet. If we have to perform a missed approach, and I already know I'm going to forget to put this in there, but we're going to climb to 3,000 feet, and by put this in there I mean put the altitude in there. Climb to 3,000 feet on the INSA localizer south course of 196 degrees until Minnow intersection, which is 10.9 nautical miles from the localizer. And then I guess we just hold there. Pretty straightforward. You can see on the plan view here coming in at Sager. We talked about that earlier. We're coming straight across to Sager and then down to Snake, Hookham, Lemon, and then we didn't put Dyers in there because we should be intercepting the glide slope at Lemon anyway. Same thing on the profile view, 3,500 at Sager. Remember that we're going to maintain our altitude a little bit higher until we're sure we're going to be clear of this string of mountains along here. And then down to 3,400 at Snake, 2,800 at Hookham, or Hookham, however you say it. 2,200 at Lemon to intercept the glide slope. Happy lights should be on the left-hand side. This is again our missed approach information, and then our ILS information here. Glide slope is not out, so we should be good to go as far as our runway visual range and all of that good stuff. So pretty straightforward as far as the brief goes today. Now watch for all kinds of fun with the landing gear and the flaps, because you're about to see that I'm having some issues with it, and I think I get it figured out, but who knows. Anyway, off we go. Alright guys, we're going to be on our approach here pretty quick. I just want to note a weird issue that keeps happening. It happened when I did the flight earlier as well. It's that right there. The landing gear keeps randomly going down, and I have no idea why. I double checked all of my settings. I unassigned everything except for the setting it's supposed to be on, but it keeps doing it for some strange reason. It's really annoying. But anyway, let's take care of our approach checklist here. MCDU needs to be set, which it is. We're going to drop down to 3,500. This is the range of mountains that I was worried about. There goes the freaking landing gear again. It's only when I'm down coming up on this approach, and it's really obnoxious. Anyway, we need to get to 3,500 feet. So I'm going to scroll this down, and I'm going to keep kicking the landing gear back up until I'm ready for it. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know what's caused it. It's just really driving me insane. But anyway, try and keep an eye on that. Speed brakes as required, so we're going to shift tab to arm the speed brakes. That's taken care of. Nav accuracy is good, position is good, barrel reference is set. Let's see, landing lights are on, cabin signs are on, engine mode selector as required. We're going to leave it on normal now that we got that figured out. Landing data has been reviewed. Nav display is set where we want it for the moment. We will switch it to ILS when we get a little closer here. I do want to take over the speed temporarily. I'm going to slow us down to 180 knots. I don't know why it's set at 260 anyway. Oh, the landing gear's killing me here. That's just driving me insane. Why does the landing gear just keep randomly deploying? There are only 3 controls for my landing gear. One on my X55 and one on my yoke, which the yoke's not being touched right now, and then the G button. And I have no idea why I'm having this problem. It's driving me nuts. But anyway, approach phase, let's see, into the approach checklist. ECAM status checked. Cabin signs are on. Decision height's been set. Landing gear is not supposed to be down yet. Really, seriously, it's not supposed to be down yet. It's starting to tick me off now. And it's doing it more than it did last time. It's really obnoxious. I don't know what's causing it. Decision height is set. Altimeters are set. V-bugs are set. Engine mode selector as required. Okay, and then that'll take us to our final approach checklist, which we're going to be on here in a minute anyway. Let's see. You're supposed to press the approach button. That'll be this one over here. We're going to select the localizer now. And seriously, speed brakes are out. Slow down already. I don't know what the deal is here. I'm having some issues right now. I don't think we can bring the first setting of flaps out yet because we're still too fast. Everything else is just bringing in the flaps, landing gear, all of that stuff. So, and that's it up until after landing. Other than this landing gear issue, which seems to have gone away now, and it's only done it when I'm down here. It's really weird. I don't get it. Okay. We should be turning on to final here shortly. You hear the throttles clicking a little bit. There's like this nervous twitch in them that keeps popping up. I don't know what that's all about. We're still at 255 knots. The airplane's not slowing down. It is coming up on 3,500 feet, so it should start slowing down here shortly. Let's bring in that first setting of flaps. Not quite yet. We need to get below 240 knots, I believe it is. Oh, that landing gear thing's driving me nuts, guys. I have no idea what's causing it. I don't know if it's a glitch in the aircraft. I don't think it is. I think it's something to do with my controls. We're still just a little bit over speed there. I guess I was wrong. We got to be below 230 for flat.
Terrain. Pull up.
Yeah. It's going to keep telling us that, too. Let's turn the terrain off. There we go. And there we go. It's turning on to our final approach course here. Our speed is really fast for that turn.
Terrain.
Pull up. Apparently that doesn't turn it off. We're on approach. There's no reason for a terrain warning here. Let's go flaps 2. Now the landing gear can come down. We've captured the localizer. Press the approach button. I don't know why I wanted to try and
terrain. Pull up.
Yeah, that's just obnoxious. Now the landing gear wants to go up. Come on.
Terrain. Pull up.
Wow.
Terrain. Pull up.
Shut up.
Terrain. Pull up.
I don't know why it's doing that. Speed brakes are still deployed because I'm getting distracted by stupid things.
Terrain. Pull up.
That's driving me nuts, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It's driving me nuts. Arm the spoilers. Max auto brakes, maybe. Maybe not. Medium auto brakes, I guess, is all we can do. Okay, so we've set this for landing. We looked at that earlier. Approach speed is 128. Hopefully the landing gear will stop messing with us because it's driving me nuts. Let's bring our speed down to 160. Right there. Let's switch this over to ILS mode all the way over. You can see there's our diamond moving down there. Just Just waiting for it to intercept the ILS now. We've already got the landing gear down because I figured it was going to go down anyway. A little foggy looking here, isn't it? I don't know why the throttles are twitching right now. Just have minor issues. And again, I think it's because of my controllers. I don't think it has anything to do with the aircraft itself. Now the terrain warning, there goes the landing gear again. The terrain warning is ridiculous. If that landing gear comes up right before I land, I'm going to be absolutely through the roof freaking livid. I'm going to be pissed if that happens. Oh my goodness. Alright, still waiting to catch the glide slope there. Looks like it's starting to descend, but we're a little below the glide slope right now, so I'm not really sure why it's descending. We need the next flap setting in there. All the flaps went all the way up. Awesome. Flaps went all the way up. That's fantastic. I just noticed that. You see that? The flaps were all the way back up. Oh, please, for the love of my sanity, stop. That is just absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Flaps should be the 2. What do we say? 128, right? Yeah, I think. I gotta check it again. 128. What is going on here? There goes the flaps again. Oh, I'm gonna lose it. I'm absolutely gonna lose it. Like really, during a full flight tutorial is like the absolute worst time for issues like this.
Terrain, pull up.
And that's just annoying. I've got it turned off. I don't know why it's, I don't know. System off maybe. I don't know. Flaps keep coming back up. We're gonna end up stalling the aircraft. What's gonna happen? I had an issue with the gear earlier, popping down and I had yeah, it was popping down. I had to keep putting it back up. Now it keeps trying to go up, and I want it to be down. I can't get the flaps to stay. Oh my goodness. Down. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and figure out why this is happening, because it's really starting to tick me off. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, I'm really hoping I got it squared away here. I literally unassigned everything except for this set of controllers, which is really obnoxious. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, well, use FSU IPC. Well, I've had some issues with it in this particular sim, so I'm not using it right now. I'm using the default control settings, and it's been working fine up until now. But I've gone ahead and unassigned everything to flaps and gear controls except for the ones on these controllers right here. So let's hope we don't have any more issues here, because this is absolutely just freaking killing me. Anyway, alright, so we're on short final here. We're going to go ahead and take the autopilot off because why not, right? We can see the runway. So let's go ahead and take autopilot off here. There we go. Autopilot is off. We have control of the aircraft. Let's get this up out of the way. Auto throttles will stay on all the way to the ground in this one. And let me try not to make an absolute mess of this thing. And we'll listen for our call-outs, and again, let's just hope that we don't have any issues with gear and flaps. That's just it's got to be cross-controller or whatever. It's absolutely just driving me insane. So I do apologize for that, but I think we might have gotten it squared away, so it is what it is, right? Here we go. And we're looking pretty good. It almost looks like we're lined up just a hair to the left, but I don't think we are, because we've got a little bit of crosswind as well. So we'll just see how it goes. Maybe just a little low there. And again, I am no master of flying the Airbus, that's for sure. Looking pretty good though.
$500. 400.
There we go. It always feels to me like there's just a little delay from when you release the controls. It continues
300.
moving in the direction you were moving.
Minimum 200.
Looking good.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10,
Little crosswind. Oh, you gotta watch it. When those wheels touch down, you cannot be pulling back on the stick anymore. It's kind of weird. I've done that before with the black box Airbus. Okay, full reverse in there. Full manual braking at this point. We're way off center line, obviously. There we go. Not too bad. Not the worst landing I've ever had there, but not the best. Honestly, I'm a little frustrated right now from whatever was causing the issue with the landing gear and the flaps. It's just drive me absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Alright, we got the flaps coming up now. And we need to make sure the steering tiller's on, right? There we go. Steering tiller is now active. Fantastic. Alright, let's bring her over here. Let's get the landing lights off. Taxi lights can stay on. Strobe lights can come off. Take her all the way up around the corner here. Let's start the APU. Master switch on. Start it. There we go. Make sure those spoilers are up. Okay, not my best landing ever, guys, so I do apologize, but little flustered there, to say the least. Alright, let's see if we can straighten it out here, and let's take a look at this after landing checklist, if I can find it here. That's landing roll, we don't need that. Ground spoiler is disarmed already. Flaps fully retracted. Engine mode selector is normal. We left them there. Landing lights are off. Anti-ice as required. APU start. We've gone ahead and done that. Brake temperature. We don't really need to check it. I'm not that worried about it. You can do the clock. We don't do that. And then take care of the after landing checklist itself. Spoilers are disarmed. Flaps retracted. Engine mode selector normal. Radar is off. And we can turn TCAS off as well. TCAS off. There we go. Fantastic. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm gonna go ahead and taxi this bird in, and then we will see you guys back here when we're ready to shut her down. Alright folks, we got a parking space. Shut down with this aircraft is really quite simple. Hop up top here first, make sure that we've got our APU up and running, which we do. Back down here, oh, sorry, let me just note, APU gen, okay, it's on right now. If you click it, you see that shows that it's off, so when the light's out, it's on. Come down here, turn off the engines, 1 and 2. Let those spool down for just a second. Fantastic. Now we'll hop back up top here. Let's turn the passenger signs off. Maybe. There we go. Passenger signs are off. External power is available. Let's go ahead and take advantage of that. That's going to allow us to turn the APU off. Let's turn those back on. That obviously didn't do anything. So for turning off the APU, simply click on the master switch. There we go. APU is now off. And we would open the doors, all of that good stuff. And other than that, we're ready to just shut it down. So we're going to turn the batteries 1 and 2 off. Turn the external power off. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes your full flight tutorial for the black box Airbus A320. I confess I was extremely frustrated with whatever was going on with the gear and the flaps. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because there was multiple controls assigned to him or what, but my goodness, it was absolutely driving me nuts there. That was actually starting to make me pretty angry. That's just ridiculous. There's some really poorly modeled cars, in my opinion. But anyway, overall, good flight. Other than that, I think we got everything pretty well squared away. I don't know if the jetway attaches here. No, it doesn't. This scenery, who does this scenery again? I want to say Fly Tampa, but that may or may not be right. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, a little frustrating there, but other than that, pretty straightforward. It's an Airbus, and it flies like an Airbus, and it handles like an Airbus, and we've flown Airbus before, so I think we all pretty much have the gist of that. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. I hope that it was helpful for you. Just remember that Black Box is continuing to make updates to this aircraft as well as their wide-body series, and I still believe that they're doing a fantastic job. There's clearly work that needs to be done on their aircraft, but they know that, and they don't pretend otherwise. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, you're really not going to find another company that treats their customers as well as Black Box does, and I really appreciate that about them. So enough about that. Once again, good flight, folks. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up down below. That helps to make it easier to find in the search, or supposedly it does, or makes it jump higher up in the search, something like that. If you haven't already done so, smash the subscribe button. Well over like 5,300 now. Looking fantastic, and I really appreciate every last one of you. Thank you very much. You can always like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, and of course you can follow us on Twitch at Captain Mac 3588. I really am hoping to get back to live streams here in the not too distant future, but I'm not going to make any promises yet because there's literally a billion things going on at once, and right now I'm just trying to crank out some videos. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave anything down in the comments, questions, comments, concerns, moans, groans. Don't leave moans, groans, complaints, because it's just ridiculous. But if you have some constructive criticism, I'm more than happy to listen to it. There's a lovely view of the building there as we come over the top. That's going to wrap it up for this one, folks. As always, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.